Hey there, this is a review for Dragonbane Shadow over Gloomshire adventure, session number 2. Had my three players back with their characters. We have Tildren, the Demon Hunter, the Elf Demon Hunter, Scarif, the Wolfkin Mage, and Erd, the Paladin. So we picked up where we left off. They arrived in Gloomshire, a very gloomy village. They're in the village square, and up out of the well comes this like hairless bat, and riding it is a ghoul, and they're actually followed by 4 skeletons. So the party quickly moves to stop this, with Erd and Tildren closing the melee, and Scarif trying to stay back using his magic. This was the first fight that they had with a real monster in Dragonbane, and in Dragonbane, monsters work differently than a lot of other systems where they automatically hit. So there's like a list of usually 6 different attacks or effects that they can have, and I just roll randomly on it and see what happens. They can't, if they have multiple attacks, which the giant hairless bat did, they can't do the same attack in the same round, so they'll do 2 different things. Pretty tough fight. Tildren, who was not heavily armored, took a lot of damage right off, and at one point he was able to evade one of the monster's attack, which you can do. It's one of the ways you can prevent yourself from being hit if you have not used your action, or you have a heroic ability that lets you do it even though you've used your action, which Tildren has. So he spent some willpower points evading attack, which actually moved him out of melee, and was enough for him to retreat the next round and start using ranged weapons. He uses silver knives in melee, and a hand crossbow at distance. So he moved back. Erd is heavily armored. I think he has like a 7 armor rating, which, aside from getting probably magical armor, that's the best armor rating you'll probably see in the game. So he took up a lot of hits, but like he offsets a lot of damage, because that's how armor works in Dragonbane. Is it doesn't prevent you from being hit, but it offsets damage. So a lot of my attacks were hitting, but my damage rolls weren't good enough, so they weren't getting through. But he was getting chewed up a little bit. He did take damage. They're going back and forth, and with a combination of all 3 of their attacks, they start to turn the tide on the battle. The big turning of the battle was Scarif got off a spell, lightning spell, which damaged a bunch of the everything there. I think it actually did damage everything there, and then Erd used this paladin ability. I don't know what it's called. It's from Paladins from this book, so the adventure that we're playing. But it's basically this holy smite is what I'll call it for now, I guess. And that damaged everybody. It almost actually killed all the skeletons. The players didn't know that, but it almost killed all the skeletons outright. And I think it did finish the giant hairless bat. I know that had taken a previous really good hit from Erd. I think he rolled a critical hit. So he did a lot of damage. So it took a lot of damage. They were also joined by coming out of the Slippery Fox Inn, they were joined by a mallard demon hunter. And in Dragonbane, if you're not familiar, the kin, some of the playable kins is they're noted for having the mallard. So this mallard demon hunter came out and joined the fray, and I think Scarif ran into some trouble trying to roll successfully to cast his spell, so he ended up actually going into melee for a bit. Erd was hit. The ghoul jumped off the dead giant bat, and basically knocked Erd to the ground, and was trying to get to him. Again, ghoul counts as a monster in Dragonbane, so it's just one of his attacks. And he pinned him to the ground. I think it was a fear check, which Tildren had failed one of those previously. I don't remember exactly how it came about, but it was our first fear check. But Erd is pinned to the ground, but I can't roll high enough to get through his armor, so he avoids a lot of damage. The ghoul actually at one point attacked. Oh nope, this is later. Sorry. We'll get to that. Tildren ends up finishing the ghoul off with a hand crossbow bolt to the head, and it just dies on top of Erd. But the battle's pretty much over at that point. They meet. They introduce themselves to this Mallard demon hunter that came out to help them. His name's Victor Dracos, and he says that he's been, basically tells them he's been in the village for a couple weeks, and he's been hunting, and they end up finding out that he's killed some stuff that some undead that have been in the city streets, and so they learn that some of their rumors, like some of the rumors that they'd heard about Gloomshire, was that the dead walk the streets, and he's like, yeah, that's partially true. I've killed them before. So they go to the inn and retire. They also meet at the inn several other NPCs that are in the inn. Most in particular, there's a Mallard woman, female Mallard that runs the inn, owns the inn, named Esther Emberleaf, and she welcomes there, and they negotiate with her for rooms and food and drink, and they but Erd draws attention from this woman who comes down the stairs like she's just thrown on like armor and stuff. She's trying to get out to the battle, but she was a little bit late. But she wears the same armor of the paladins of the Blue Rose that Erd wears, and she sees Erd, and she's very shocked by this because that order largely doesn't exist. She believes that she was the last member of that order, and to see this, so she comes over to question Erd about where he got the armor. So, and he's like, it was passed down from my father, who was a member of the order, and wanted to see it restored before he passed away, but ultimately he passed away before that happened. So Erd has taken up his father's armor, and so they all get a table to include Maeve and Victor, and the night goes on. There's some other things going on. They see a couple of wolfkin rolling dice, who eventually, as the night goes on and it becomes the sun goes down, they leave, and they find out later on that the wolfkin leave at night because they can't control their frenzy, so they go out and hunt at night outside the village. And Scarf is like, he's an older wolfkin, and he Matt, who plays him, kind of played into that. He's like, yeah, that's something that the young do. He's older, he doesn't do that anymore. There's another woman at the end. They see this woman being she's sad and crying, and she's being consoled by another woman. And this woman's name is that's sad is Brenda, and she's talking about her husband Jurgen, and they find out that over time and talking to people that he disappeared a while ago. They thought initially that he went off into the forest, and the players thought that, the characters thought that, but they find out later that he just disappeared. Like, they're not, the people in the town aren't sure what happened to her husband Jurgen. Meanwhile, they're continuing to talk to Maeve, trying to piece together stuff about the Paladin Order of the Blue Rose, and they find out that the order was once overseen by this woman named Fiona, who Maeve is actually a descendant of. And during that time, there's actually another NPC. They don't meet that NPC, but they kind of sort of interact with him a little bit indirectly. There's an elven bard named Bellamy, and he is, trying to, he's working the crowd, playing some songs, and just trying to liven the mood up a little bit in gloomy Gloomshire. And he passes by their table, and he sees both Erd and Maeve in their armor, and he sings this little ballad about the Knights of the Blue Rose, and it talks about this, basically how it was split by betrayal within, and Maeve also gives into some of that, and Scarif recalls some of his vast lore that he had heard stories about that too. But basically, this demon queen Morrigan came, and Fiona battled it, and that. So there's actually a little in the adventure. There's they have this. This is the Legend of Gloomshire by Bellamy, the Elven Bard. So I read that to the players to give them some the nights continue to go on. There's like a trio of drunken halflings that are from out of town that are not a problem. They're just a little rambunctious because they drink a lot. They don't really play into it much. They're just kind of in the, so far they could, I guess. But in this session they didn't. They were just kind of introduced in the background. But at some point, Esther, the mallard that owns the Slippery Fox Inn, she goes upstairs and they can hear her beating on the door asking for this Marin to come down. And it's apparent to them that Marin is the cook at the thing and that she needs him down there to get more food ready because the inn's very busy at night because it's one of the few like really places of maybe physical warmth, but like the emotional warmth where villagers can go. And she always treats people very well to make them welcome and to give them something, you know, to look forward to. So her assistant is a halfling named Billy, and he's running around trying to serve food and drinks, and they're getting behind. So she goes up to get Marin, and he doesn't come down. And eventually Billy's pressed into actually being the cook too, so it's really hectic. This does pique the party's interest a little bit, and they ultimately end up going up to investigate, and they knock on the door, and Matt, role-playing his Wolfkin Scarif very well, is like sniffing at the door like a dog would, you know, and he doesn't, I don't think I described anything he smelled, but they can hear like scuffling inside, and it's actually at this point, it's only Scarif and Tildren up there. Erd stayed downstairs with Maeve, and they're discussing, you know, the order and trying to compare notes and learn more about each other. The door is locked, they can't get in. Then they hear a table crash inside, something crash. So they're like, go get, and the door's locked, and they know neither one of them can force the door. So they go get Erd, and Maeve joins them. And actually, I don't know if she did join them yet. Yeah, I think she did. I think she did come up, but she didn't really, because it was it happened pretty fast. They end up coming up and force the door open, and they see the room's in disarray and dark, and only light from the hallway spilling in, so it's only partially illuminated, which changes because Scarif casts a light cantrip, and it illuminates the room, and they see this figure in the corner, and he slowly turns to face them, and he's humanoid, and he just looks off, and then they see his eyes, and his eyes are like almost like they're on fire, like they're burning orbs, and it's sniffing around, and they realize that it can't see them, and it's sniffing around, and finally it catches like a scent, and when it does, it drops down on all fours like this, and scuttles towards them like inhumanly fast with it like jagged teeth bared, and it attacks. And this is the fear. I got ahead of myself earlier in the earlier fight. This is the fight where Tildren suffered a fear attack. So this thing charging forward causes a fear attack, and everybody passed their roll except for Tildren. So he has feared. Erd tries to hit it and actually rolls a fumble, which is called the demon in Dragonbane. And the way I described it is it's a miss and something bad happens. So he puts his hammer right through the floorboards of the inn, and it's stuck there. So he's going to have to take a round if he wants to free it. It attacks Scarif, and one of its strikes, it rakes him across the face, temporarily blinding him until he's healed. So he had a bane on any skill or anything that required sight. They do a little bit of battle. It isn't a super long battle, but they end up finishing it off. Tildren actually finishes it off with a silver dagger, and Esther comes up, and they get Esther up there, and they realize that this is Marin and something's happened to him. So they search his room, and underneath the bed they find this symbol carved into the floor, and using some skills that the characters that the game has, I think Myths and Legends got used a lot last night. Tildren's able to determine that it's a arcane symbol, and because Scarif would be really good at it, can't see anything. So eventually they figure out that it's a necromancy symbol. So they make plans. They get Marin's body out into the stable, and they're gonna have Esther's gonna like take care of it in the morning. They don't want to stir up the town. She ends up closing the inn for the night. And they go about, one of the things that Scarif is adamant about is that they search all the rooms to see if there's any more of these symbols. So Esther goes around and searches the rooms. He also has some suspicion about Maeve, and like her, he just found some of her actions suspicious, like coming down late to the battle, and maybe some of the things he said. Matt had passed me this note, actually kind of lengthy note, about Scarif and his thoughts on her. So he's paying a lot of attention to her, which is always interesting. You never know how players are going to react to NPCs and the way you portray them. Sometimes, you know, you may think it's giving off one vibe or intention, and then the players read it totally different. You know, you never know, which makes the game interesting. One of the things that make it interesting. So after they don't find any more arcane symbols in any of the rooms. Even Maeve has her room checked, and Scarif is very interested in that. But there's nothing really of note in there. Like, has a very Spartan lifestyle. And she's only been in town for a few weeks as well, in the village. She came here to find out more about her, the order and her family and what happened. They rest for the night, and they have the plan to the following day, is the way I understood it. There was a couple different things they were thinking about doing, but I think their first order of business is they are going to go to the chapel that's in town, which is across the street from the inn, and they want to speak to Minerva, who is the woman that sent Erd and Tildren the letter asking them to come to Gloomshire because the village need help. So they're going to go to they find out she runs the chapel there, and they're going to go speak to her and see what they can learn. They talked about exploring the well because there was a ladder in it. And they found out that the well is old and hasn't been used in years, so that piqued their interest. Not sure where they're going to go, but we'll see. We should be playing this coming week. Next Thursday. This is filming this on Friday. We played last night. But yeah, that's where we're at. So far, a lot of fun. It's interesting I've only run a few sessions, so it's like my 4th session of Dragonbane I've played in a lot of sessions of it, so it's interesting to be on the other side of the screen. So far, having a good time. I like the adventure so far. It's pretty laid out, so my prep is very minimal. It's more of just reading and trying to just know what's going on in the adventure. So it's really well laid out, gives you different events for different locations and rumors and all sorts of stuff. It's really good. So if you're interested, check it out. It's on Drive-Thru RPG. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, we'll be back at it soon. Appreciate y'all watching. Thanks.